Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squared for boxing news and views from around the internet. Frazer Clarke becomes the first man by default to stop Kevin Espindola. Espindola retires on a stool after 4 rounds, apparently suffering some sort of hand injury in the first round, which he was complaining about, and seemingly he was getting more animated between rounds as the fight went on. But for Frazer Clarke, it was, I think, a more complete performance than the Kamil Sokolowski fight. But you have to take into account as well, I guess, you had a guy in Espindola who was happy to shell up, be a bit negative, and look for a counter, making Frazer Clarke do basically all the work. But he did sink in some really nice body shots, and you could tell as the fight was wearing on that was having an effect. I thought he just looked a little sharper, a little bit more dynamic in this fight compared to the Sokolowski fight. And he said after the fight, actually, you had a case of he felt things were clicking better in the gym, and he'd been accused by Jamie Shakiva, a Sky and Boxer prospect, of being involved in too many other things, and that maybe he wasn't on point and things weren't going well for him in the gym. But he said he's been focusing his efforts in the right place, and he felt that he got some results out of his recent work and focus. And I think we saw that. But in the same breath, you had a case with Frazer Clarke. He was an Olympic medalist, highly hyped coming into the pros. This was a solid performance, but no more. Is he the guy people thought maybe he could be? Is he what Sky thought they were getting? Maybe not. I still get the impression, watching his fights, that he's not going to the top level. And some people might sort of look at that and say, is it a bit too early? But often when you're seeing guys who you think are going to go far in the heavyweight division, you see something in them pretty early and you're like, this guy's going to be a problem. I think Frazer Clarke's going to fight well at a certain level, but it's not like he went in there and knocked Espindola out in a round and left you going, wow. Overall, solid performance, and obviously he did his job, what he needed to do. He got the win. That's the most important thing. But I didn't have the impression after that fight that Clarke is on track for fringe world level, or anything like that. And I know that might sort of seem a little premature to some, but even the talk of from Ben Shalom after the fight that Fabio Wardley could be next, or in a couple of fights they want to face Wardley for the British title, I would be putting my money on Fabio Wardley all day. I think the way that he fights and the openings that he would be able to find against Frazer Clarke, I think he would probably put quite a beating on him, actually. And I know that may be a big call for some, but you had Espindola landing the left hook with somewhat regularity. Frazer Clarke is a good fighter. He's got heavy hands for sure. But against a guy who can box and move and who's got real power in each hand, I think that Fabio Wardley would find the target. And if he's open to a counter left hook, which he seems to be, Fabio Wardley will find that target, and probably with a bit more torque in his punches than Kevin Espindola, who was obviously a bit game with what he was throwing back at times, but he basically allowed Frazer Clarke to hold court and do what he wanted for the most part. So I guess I'm not going to go, too much more to say about this fight because it was what it was. I guess some people will say and expect better from Clarke and his opponents coming up, and Clarke sort of acknowledged that after the fight. And obviously with the sort of, we want to get Frazer Clarke to a British title under 10 fights, and to Fabio Wardley, hopefully within the next few fights, he's the British champion. What do they do between now and then? Sure, he needs rounds, but he also needs to convince us that he's deserving of a shot and that he's not going to fall short when he gets there. What do they put in front of him to help prepare Frazer Clarke for Fabio Wardley? It's a good question. I mean, they probably need someone who can box and move and be a bit fleet of foot, who's got a little bit of pop, but obviously not too much danger. But yeah, well, I guess we'll see where they go with Frazer Clarke. But overall, I think it was a better performance than the Sokolowski one. Yeah, he wins. So elsewhere on that card, besides the Parker fight I've covered in a separate video, you had the 6'8" prospect Matty Harris. He was facing Jiri Surmaj, and all over, inside a round. A couple of decent right hands land and a couple of other shots in between, and you have Surmaj on the back foot, backpedaling, turning his head, staggered, and the referee doesn't like what he sees, waves it off. Not really much to take from it, but yeah, Harris doing what he has to do at the stage of his career. 23 years old, and after the fight he said, I'm still young. I just need to get rounds, get experience, and we'll see where things go from here, but I want to fight regularly. So, I mean, I like that attitude, and he seems to have something a bit about him, and if he can continue improving and his skills start to polish up, along with that height, he starts to become, a bit of a handful at some point, but a project for now. So overall, a win for Harris. Clarke looks a bit better. What do you make of it all? Where do you see Clarke going? I mean, there's an open question mark for me, but drop a comment loud and often. Hit like, hit subscribe, follow me on Twitter. Boxing_squared. I'm out.